Everyone, it's my privilege to call to order the May 21st, 2013 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. For those who would like to, there are copies of our agenda on both sides of the room. If you'd like to pick one up and follow along with our proceedings this evening, I would encourage you to do so. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items that are on our agenda tonight, as well as items that are not on our agenda, and that's a segment we call Questions and Comments of a General Nature. It is customary for us to it's customary for us to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point in time, I'd ask that everyone please rise and join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rankin?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Newstead?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. It brings us to item 3 on our agenda, minutes of council meetings. We have one set of minutes to review for approval tonight. Those are our minutes of our regular council meeting of May 14th, 2013. Do any members of the village council have any changes, corrections, comments, contortions with respect to those minutes? Well, you had me there for a second, but I thought there was one coming. And with that being said, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Those minutes are adopted. Terrific. It brings us right to the promised segment on public comments. Item 4. If any members of the audience have any questions or comments of a general nature with respect to matters not appearing on tonight's agenda, we would ask that you please come down to the podium, give us your name and address, and we would welcome hearing from you. Are there questions or comments of a general nature? Mr. Filish, take your time.
Okay.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Yeah, I'm complaining about the stormwater deal. We were all told that the stormwater bill would be less than what we would be paying under if it were a tax. I checked my bills, and I found out that there's a $55 difference between this year and 11 and 12. And my stormwater bill on the water bill is $16.80 per every 2 months, so that's $100.80. I don't know how that could be less than I would be paying under if it was a tax.
Well, two things. First of all, I would have to look at the numbers you're looking at. I can't tell or give you an answer, but that'd be something I'd be happy to do. Second of all, when that statement was made, I think that's for most properties. That's not necessarily all properties. You could be in a different situation. Once again, we'd have to look at the specifics of your situation and whether you're looking at your total tax bill, you're looking at the Downers Grove portion of your tax bill.
I looked at the Downers Grove portion, and
both installments?
For 11, it was $159.34. For 12, it was $104.04, which made a difference of $55.80.
Although you'd have to compare it to what it would otherwise be this year.
Well, it was this year and last year.
This year it was 159?
No, between 11th and 12th. 2011,
2011,
2012.
right.
Pardon.
So 2012 it was 159?
No, 2011 was 159.
What's 12?
2012 was 104.
104.
Pardon?
104.
04, right.
So it was a $55 reduction.
Yeah.
So we'd be happy to take a look at Mr. Falish's tax bill and give him our thoughts and confirm or really just document, and we're happy to help him interpret.
Sure, we're happy to. We'd have to actually look at the numbers. I can't opine on that right here, but generally, but that comment was from many people. It was either
that was not my impression. I thought it was to be everybody. But anyway, my roof drainage from the house and the garage, it drains into lawn areas. So not all of that water is going to be going immediately into the storm sewer. And evidently I have two. Now, getting back to the flood we had a couple of weeks ago, the north property was flooded to about 2 feet. 2 feet of flood in that area, and it was drained by the next day. The south property, where the ball field was, also had about 2 feet of water in the thing, and that took 2 days to drain. Now, I drove along Washington Street, and I noticed there were a lot of houses that had storm-damaged stuff out on the parkway. And I just wonder why, because the lots were not full to capacity, I wouldn't think. And why were these houses, why were they caused storm damage?
I couldn't tell you the answer to any specific house, Mr. Falish.
There's no excuse for it, because we just put in a sewer in there about a year ago. I think that storm sewer that extended all the way to Ogden Avenue.
I'd have to ask the owners of those homes why they had flood damaged property. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. If you have the addresses, maybe we can find out whether they had flooding in their basements, whether maybe they responded to the survey. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it seems strange that since the ponds detention ponds were working adequately, I assume, and it didn't look like they were even half full, that these people should be flooded.
Once again, like with the other question, we'll have to look into the specifics. I don't have the details in front of me to be able to answer your question adequately.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Thank you for raising them. I do know, as Commissioner Durkin has pointed out, that I love that analogy about the buckets. Don't get worried every time I say you pointed something out.
No, not that, Chris.
The analogy they've used, or the metaphor actually that you've used with respect to the buckets, where we had a one gallon bucket and through our stormwater efforts in the past increased it to a 5 gallon bucket, but we had a 10 gallon rain. So it worked fine, but it worked to its capacity. And with the specific houses you made, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to know addresses, I'd have to speak to the owners, I don't know the details. But it's something that we can follow up on. Thank you for your comments. Other questions or comments of a general nature from any members of the audience? Any other questions or comments of a general nature? Hearing none, that brings us to item 5 on our agenda, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Let's see. Which two are coming off?
Items C and D.
Thank you. I normally would have circled those beforehand. Items C and D under item 6 of our consent agenda at request of a member of the council are being removed from the agenda for separate treatment. So with the exclusion of those two items, 6C as in cat and C as in, I'm sorry, 6C as in cat and D as in David, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to the items still on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council? Hearing none. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The consent agenda with the exclusion of items C and D has been approved unanimously. That brings us to the end of the consent agenda. Brings us to our active agenda with 2 new items on it. Let's start with those. We'll now refer to what was formerly item 6C on the consent agenda. We'll now take it up under item 7 on the active agenda. Do I have a motion to award a contract for $639,340 to Patnick Construction for the water main loop annexed area?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Any questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to this item? Commissioner Olson?
I just wanted to comment that I did ask that these items be removed from the consent agenda. I think these are large, significant projects in the village. I think we should highlight them and highlight the way that taxpayer money is being expended, both efficiently and to provide village services that are of great value to the residents, especially in these areas, but also to residents throughout the village. So just wanted to make sure that these items were treated with appropriate deference, especially given the large amount of public funds that are being expended in each of the items. So, but I am in support of this and look forward to the construction of this water main. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to this item? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, that matter passes unanimously. Now let's take up item 6D under the active agenda. Do I have a motion to award a bid in the amount of $569,680.05 to A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc. for the 2013 new sidewalk installation program and right-of-way accessibility improvements?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Commissioner Olson?
Just similar to the last item, wanted to bring specific attention to this item. It's another significant expenditure of public funds. I think this is a good thing. It's a good thing to improve the sidewalks in our village. I know there's some concerns in those neighborhoods, and I am very glad to hear that staff has worked with those residents to alleviate as many of those concerns as possible. So thank you, and I support the item.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, that matter also has been adopted unanimously. And that brings us to the items that were previously listed under our active agenda, items 7A, B, and C. We'll begin with item 7A. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the liquor ordinance regarding entertainment/restaurant facility license as presented?
Mayor Tully, I move to adopt an ordinance amending the entertainment/restaurant facility license as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Any questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to this item? I will just add once again, as I mentioned last week, that the addition of the language following the recommendation from the Liquor Commission that the license shall be subject to any other additional conditions and/or restrictions imposed by the local liquor commissioner, either at the time of initial issuance or renewal of the license, weighs heavily in the reasons why I will be supporting this proposed amendment. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter passes unanimously. That brings us to item 7B. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the liquor ordinance regarding floor plan changes and certified training requirements as presented?
Mayor Tully, I move to adopt an ordinance amending floor plan changes and certified training requirements as presented.
Second.
Questions or comments from any members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the village council? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. That matter also passes unanimously. I want to thank our village attorney, Anza Petrarca, and her staff for working on both of these amendments. Brings us to item 7C. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance authorizing a special use to permit an automobile laundry and repair shop at 946 Ogden Avenue as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to this item? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter also passes unanimously, and that brings us to the end of our active agenda into item 8, our first reading or our workshop agenda. We have a number of items for discussion and consideration on first reading. There will be no action taken on these at this point in time. The items are presented by staff for consideration and discussion by the village council for potential action at a later point in time. It's customary to turn over the presentation of these items to our village manager, David Fieldman. Mr. Fieldman, would you please do us the honors?
Thank you, Mayor Tully. There are 4 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first is consideration accepting an update to our bicycle and pedestrian plan. And here to present the information related to this item is our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. I'm here tonight to present this plan update. In 2000, the village completed both a bicycle and pedestrian plan, long-range plan, and since that time has implemented many of the recommendations of that plan. With financial support from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, the village initiated updates to these plans in 2012 with the help of Sam Schwartz Engineering. The purpose of the plan update is to promote the use of best practices as we continue to plan and manage our transportation system for non-motorized trips. The plan update included the creation of a steering committee that was an important element of the plan update. It included members, representatives from other government agencies, including the Park District, District 58, the Forest Preserve District, and DuPage County, the Downers Grove Bicycle Club, village staff, including Police Department, Community Development, and Public Works, the Downtown Management Corporation, and a representative from the Transportation and Parking Commission. Public engagement was an important part of the plan update from the very beginning, and we created a plan specifically to get as much public engagement as we could during this process. We had events last year at the Bike to Work Week at the train station, which the Bike Club helped us with that. We had a booth at the car show. We also engaged residents and visitors at the market and at Rotary Grove Fest last year. We had 2 interactive walking and bicycling workshops. One of them was in conjunction with a coffee with the council down at McCollum Park last year. We had a walking workshop that involved some of the merchants and property owners in the downtown. We had 2 public meetings before the Transportation and Parking Commission to review the drafts of the plan and to get input. And we also had an online survey to get comments from residents and visitors. And we got a total of over 400 points of input and comment from various people throughout the process. Working with our steering committee and our consultant and the public input we received, we developed some general goals moving forward. The number one is to improve mobility and safety for bicyclists and pedestrians in the village. We also want to look at improving the pedestrian experience in the downtown. I think it's already very good, but I think everybody would like to see improvements as well. We want to attract residents and visitors to Downers Grove. We want to encourage mode shift to reduce car trips, and also not just car trips, but also parking in some cases, like at commuter stations. We want to improve connections to regional bike routes, which will kind of speak to the recreational component of it, people that want to get on their bike and go out for more recreation or for exercise. And we ultimately, putting all these together in one package, want to be recognized as a bicycle-friendly community. The key findings I just wanted to highlight, there's a number of very positive key findings and a couple of areas that we want to continue to work on. We found that in general, people feel like Downers Grove is has a very walkable downtown. It has popular destinations and prominent events that people like to walk to. It has a nearly comprehensive sidewalk network. It has the recent comprehensive plan update included supportive recommendations for bicycling and walking. It has a predominant grid system of streets, of low-volume streets, a well-used parking at commuter stations, and is a strong mode use for rail commuters. On the areas to look at for improvement, we found that people feel like, and we know there are major street crossings and railroads. The railroad itself creates barriers for bicycling and walking in the community. We also found that our existing signed routes that were implemented after the 2000 plan aren't always continuous. People find they don't take them very far to places they'd like to go always. Also, we found that the rate of injuries for bicycling is higher in the village than the national average. And it was felt by the public input that we received that the addition of on-street bicycle facilities was felt to be, of all the improvements they wanted to see, the most needed throughout the community. Taking these key findings and our input we received, we put these into a series of recommendations or suggestions. These are the short-term recommendations that are relatively easy to implement, don't take a lot of funding, and don't take a lot of changes to the way that the streets are operated, including things like creating a task force to help us with implementation, complete the network of signed routes throughout the village, increase bicycle parking in the downtown, perhaps implement a bike rack request system where people can request locations where they would like to see more parking. Look for improvements to the major street crossings, come up with plans to implement improvements. Perhaps look in the downtown to create some more pedestrian-friendly spaces, places that feel like pedestrians might want to walk to or to spend time in. To complete some of the short trail connections, we did some of those with the first plan implementation, and we'd like to continue with a few more of those. And to include countdown indicators, which this is one thing we already are doing. We are including those with new traffic signals as they are installed. On the medium-term recommendations, these involve funding and possible changes to traffic recommendations. Before we move ahead with implementing these, we would do further study, similar to what we did with the parking study. As you remember, there were some that were relatively easy to implement, others that we went through TAP, did further study, and came back to council for specific approval of those changes to the code. Some of these fall into that category where we do further review and then be coming back to TAP and to Village Council before we'd implement. One of these could be expanding bike parking, maybe even covered parking at the commuter stations, completing the sidewalk network on at least one side of the street, which we are on a path close to doing that now, but if we're going to continue to look at maybe expanding that policy to do more, maybe on the second side of the street, that would be something else to take a look at. To install countdown indicators on existing high-priority traffic signals, not just those that we're replacing. The county is in the process of designing for construction a new trail at 31st Street, so we'd be looking at making some connections to that trail. And then looking at implementing some of the safety enhancements at mid-block crossings. The longer-term recommendations involve more significant funding, some of the bigger ticket items, and or more traffic restrictions to make it more friendly for bicyclists or pedestrians. One item of note that I know there was some questions about, an example of this is the Fairview Avenue suggestion to look at, they call it a road diet, where you're kind of squeezing car traffic to make room for bike lanes. That is an example where it would only move forward with very careful study. Study not only how it would impact bicyclists, but how it would impact motorists. It would be carefully reviewed before the TAP Commission and before Village Council. There's several suggestions in the plan like that that are more long-range vision and would not be suitable for implementation at this point, but set kind of a vision for the future if we get to that point. So that's just a summary of all the information included in the plan, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Newland. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to the proposed bicycle and pedestrian plan? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing none. Questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm about 2/3 of the way through this, to be honest with you. So in my mind, it's unlikely that I'd be, from a process standpoint, interested in consent agenda approval on the first meeting in June. I haven't made it all the way through, and there's going to be additional questions I'd like to vet through. But in the beginning, kind of top-level question, describe more, if you would, about how you see implementation and this as a guiding document versus, there was some comment in some of the notes about the things that didn't really require funding or regulatory issues would just sort of be staff directed and driven. My general take thus far on it is there's a ton of really good stuff in here, but in particular as it relates to the village-wide bicycle things, I struggle thinking that there's some things that I don't think are good and some things that I think don't go nearly far enough when we're talking about vision planning documents. So tell me more about that. There's these lists of short-term and long-term things. Do you see much of that happening without further council review, or how's that going to go forward? I'm a little worried about the document being sort of taken and run with when there's bigger planning questions, I think, embedded in it.
What I see that we could potentially implement without a lot of review are more on the short-term list. Similar to what we did with the downtown parking study would be kind of the low-hanging fruit, things that are easy to change without inconveniencing or negatively impacting other systems. Like in this case, the motoring public, it isn't reducing volumes. I know, like, for example, when you put a no right turn on red, that's a balance you're creating. You're weighing the safety benefits against the delay to motorists. That is an action that comes before council for regulation, so that would be discussed at TAP and at council. Anything that involves a regulation will be further discussed. The easy things to implement are things like getting more bike racks like we did last year to install in the downtown. Looking for opportunities on things that improve amenities for bicyclists and pedestrians. We are, I think, already very progressive as far as pedestrian improvements. I think that's one of the things the study gave the village a lot of credit for, was the amount of sidewalks we install, how proactive we are about implementing ADA improvements throughout the community. I think some of the things we can continue to look at are some of the mid-block crossings and some of the school crossings. Those are the kind of safety things that we'll continue to give more emphasis on.
I just want to be more clear, just right to the point. There are very few items that staff can implement on our own because of two things. The regulatory in nature, anything regulatory in nature actually comes to the council for amendments to our code, even if they're small dollar amounts. And the second thing is our purchasing policy. The staff purchasing policy is limited to only $15,000, and so anything above that also comes to council. So in the same manner that the downtown parking plan had a lot of low-hanging fruit, sort of phase one things, I think the council saw almost every item, maybe one or two that you did not see. There's only a handful of items in here that I think staff could do, like create a request, a system for requesting placement of bike racks, those types of things. Almost everything else will come to the council for further policy discussion.
I'm excited about the report. I don't want to sound negative and down. I'm excited about the report because I think, frankly, it's this in conjunction with general traffic is perhaps, other than, you know, condition of infrastructure, is the biggest thing. When you're out talking to people, they hate traffic and they feel like it's a problem. And it's related to pedestrian movement and bicycle movement as well. But there's a lot in here that I think is an awesome starting point for, frankly, bigger council discussions about policy. And there's some stuff that I found to be kind of contradictory. We talk about priorities of, you know, improving crossings, street crossings, and then at the same time say, but what we really want to do is get bikes on the streets because they're safer when they're not on sidewalks. So you can't do those without pretty substantial planning, I would suggest, from us as a body. So I think I'm hearing probably the right answer to my nonsensical question, but there's a lot of good in here. I just want to talk quite a bit more about it before we really start doing things. So, I'll have a list when I get through the whole document.
We anticipate a lot of discussion. I mean, like you said, there are a lot of, I think we kind of will grow into this plan through a lot of discussion with the community and with the council. It's
a plan we absolutely should have, and I'm kind of disappointed it took us so long to update it, I suppose, but it's awesome. I'm glad we're doing it. Just let's not be in too big a hurry to codify anything.
Nothing worth doing, worth planning carefully. Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from the council? Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, just I agree with what Commissioner Burnett said. I think we do need to be mindful and measured in how we implement the document, especially in some of the more long-range changes. But I think this is very exciting. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity we have, and you know, of course, let's definitely be thoughtful about it. But I also want to encourage staff to be, you know, creative in looking at this plan and you know, bring forward suggestions to us, because this is great stuff. We want to encourage people to walk. We want to encourage people to be able to jog in the community, to be able to bike, and you know, it's good for physical fitness and a whole number of things. So, you know, I'm very excited about the plan, and of course, I have a couple of concerns and questions that I'll be sharing as well. But you know, just wanted to express that I'm very excited about the plan, very excited about the opportunities that we have here in Downers Grove, and also want to commend many past group staff and councils for the improvements we've already made, because I think it's made the town even better. So looking forward to working with this report. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Newstead?
Just something that just came to me, there's a couple of times in here where it talks about connecting to like the 75th Street side path. Do our neighboring communities, are they undertaking a bicycle plan or update as well? And are we going to be able to work in conjunction with them? We don't want to get to the edge of our corporate limits and then stop. I think that's where we're identifying some of the breaks, at least in the map that we've been prepared here. A couple of different spots is our boundary, probably because that was the scope of the program, but also the connectivity I think is important for bicyclists, so they can go from one community to the next, because we all know those bicyclists like to go further than just a few miles east and west and north, so how's that going to work
The
out?
villages of Lisle and Woodridge both have bicycle plans, which we did took into consideration when we created our plan, and we will continue to work with them as we move forward, as well as our other neighboring communities, to make those connections.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions from the council? Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. I too am excited about this report. We are and want to continue to be a green community, and this is an important step in that. I want to thank Nan and Dave for addressing some of the road diet issues, some of the larger issues, because that's one particular question that I had, because that's a very sticky, I think, policy issue that'll take some discussion. But I think there are a lot of short-term issues that can be taken care of in relatively uncontroversial and short order, and I look forward to those coming forward very soon. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Rankin?
In regards to what Commissioner Neustadt was saying, does the county have any sort of committee of communities to make sure that they are all connecting, or is that something that doesn't exist?
The county compiles a county-wide bike plan, and what they do is they reach out to all the communities in the county and they collect their plans and show those on their kind of unified document as they develop. So it's kind of creating that expanding grid. So as we implement more projects, we'll be able to add that to the county map and make those connections.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I see this as a huge opportunity for a new business in our downtown. I think a bike shop might be needed. I know we have some in town, we have one on Ogden, but with all the talk about downtown and all the exciting things that, you know, we're gonna see with this plan and bringing people to our train stations, and we better let Mr. Casson know there's a new business need on the horizon here. I just have a couple questions though, and a point of clarification. When you had mentioned the longer term, Nan, about Fairview Avenue and the railroad crossing, you had mentioned that you're gonna possibly be narrowing down lanes to increase the bicycle area. Would that include, would one have to take in consideration changing the type of vehicles that would be permitted on the Fairview Avenue area? Meaning no large semis, no wide loads, stuff like that? I don't know, I know it's a long term, but it was just something that popped into my head when you had brought that up on your slide.
I think that would all have to be looked at if we were to get to that point.
Okay. And then since this is part of pedestrian discussion, I know that there's a state law that is now being mandated in quite a few of the communities regarding when people have entered the crosswalk, you are to stop. We've done a great job in providing the countdown lights, which I'm very excited to see that they've gotten some major momentum with this document and the short-term implementations with the plan. But I have concerns, immediate concerns, regarding the crosswalk just south of 63rd Street, north of Fairmount on Main Street. There's a large sum of students that cross from the El Sierra, where I live, over to Downer South High School, and then also from North 63rd Street by Springbrook or Springside. There's a cross and so every morning you see people just zipping by and there's people standing. Could that be an immediate need, or excuse me, could that be something that can be addressed on the short term that you kind of went over? Because this is a pedestrian document as well as bicycle.
We can definitely take a look at that and work with the county, especially in the case of 63rd Street.
That's right, both roads are counties, I'm sorry. If we can just address that.
We have been bringing up items similar to that to their attention, and they have made a couple of changes this year. So we'd just like to keep working with them and take care of these problem locations.
Especially since it's high school, I mean, it's students crossing, you know, I cringe every time I see it. And I know our police have done a great job sitting there, but you can only be there so many times. Last but not least, are there any federal or state grants that could help us implement this, since this is really a green initiative? Is there any, I mean, I know we have our own grant department. Is this something that we can, do we know?
There are grants. They just announced yesterday the enhancement grants, which is does bicycle and pedestrian improvements. It's part of the federal surface transportation program. It was just announced yesterday for taking applications this year. So we will definitely be taking a look at that. And having projects included in our plan helps with our case to apply for projects.
Exactly. Well, job well done. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks. And there's some discussion of possible funding sources from outside agencies on page 43 of the proposal. I think there's some things that might be pursued there as well. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, first of all, hooray. This is great to see because, as Commissioner Durkin points out, among other reasons, this actually does have economic development aspects to it. We hear that in order to attract high-quality businesses to locate in Downers Grove as opposed to, say, that other city to our east near the lake, we need to provide amenities that will attract the kind of workforce that those companies seek to have nearby, and not to suggest that cycling is a young woman or young man's exclusively activity. It's obviously something that all benefit from, but that is an amenity that you do see the younger members of workforces for major companies seeking to relocate to Illinois, and relocating to different communities in DuPage County and elsewhere. Those are the kind of things they're looking for. So anything that we can add to that scale to tip in our favor in terms of a company locating here as opposed to further east is a good thing. So that's sort of the hardcore economic development reason to do it. On top of the, this is just good municipal planning for having the type of community that wins awards for being Forbes' 8th most friendly village in the United States. So I'm really glad to see this. And as I said earlier, anything worth doing is worth doing right, and we should be mindful about it. One question, well, before I get to the question, I see sort of three parts to this. There are, this is sort of the comprehensive plan version for pedestrian and cycling avenues in our community. It is a set of recommendations and aspirations that we can use as a resource, and obviously, as Commissioner Barnett points out, we want to sort of work through it and make sure we're comfortable with everything in here that we seek to aspire to is within the appropriate parameters. But there are different aspects of it. There are those things that we can easily do, such as having a mechanism for how people go about requesting a bike rack be located in some particular place. I don't think anybody would take issue with that. We get those requests from time to time, and having a structured environment for how residents make those kind of requests, I think is terrific. That's just an example of the easy things to do. No reason why we can't do those. Then there are the things that we might do as part of another project. And so having these recommendations and resources available to us and in the back of our minds when we do some other project, like a street reconstruction or who knows what, partnering with another organization, it's very helpful to have this guide handy, not unlike having the Ogden Avenue Master Plan handy when one looks at a proposed new development on Ogden Avenue or something of that nature. Then, and I think these are the things that Commissioner Barnett was particularly touching upon, are what are the things that we want to strive to do independently? And there we have to be particularly mindful because we have to make sure that it fits in with all our other philosophies and approaches and good, thoughtful planning. And I know we'll have plenty of opportunities to do that as part of working through this document. Now back to my question. The task force that is proposed, I think that's a good idea. Is it proposed to be an ad hoc committee that will be in existence for some period of time? I understand it is proposed to meet quarterly, beginning practically now or very soon. But is that the structure that we're contemplating here, some sort of ad hoc committee? And then if so, how do we contemplate that will be staffed going forward? Or you just add that to the list of questions?
I don't have any preset ideas about it. I think the steering committee started a lot of very good dialogue among different groups. So we'd like to continue that conversation in whatever way is most effective for the community and for dialogue. I think we'd be very open to.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of good work here, and I appreciate, as I know all my colleagues do, all the work that's gone into it and everyone who's participated in it, including all the stakeholders and staff. Thank you, and as Commissioner Barnett points out, there will be other questions and comments as we further digest this, but it's great to have this even as is for reference right now. Other questions or comments, Commissioner Barnett?
Yeah, as long as we're kind of in workshop mode, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to sound like some kind of wet blanket on the party here, but we've all talked about opportunities and how excited we are to have this opportunity to have this great document, and that's cool. And there's a lot in there that's, to everybody's point, almost implementable now in terms of idea. But I'll call everybody's attention primarily to page 15 as they're continuing to digest this over the next couple of weeks. Commissioner Jose said it was a sticky there's some sticky elements. There are some sticky elements. Great choice of words. And it comes down to some pretty simple things. And I'm really focused on bikes. I apologize for segregating from the pedestrian aspect of it. But we've had a plan of one form or another for 13 years, and we've managed about 9 blocks of what everybody says their favorite number one choice is. And that's awesome. But there's even several, 3, 4, 5 places in there where they talk about the marginal effectiveness of the signs. And so signs are easy, they're administrative, and they don't cost any money, and they're marginally effective. What everybody's looking for, and what this says is the safest situation, is something that is radical in terms of this group's long-term planning and even short-term budgeting when we talk about things like street design and stuff. It's an awesome plan with a lot of good direction. But for us to get excited about opportunities to actually do anything with those opportunities, you know, nodding our heads, smiling, saying we got a great report, let's throw up some signs, is useless. This thing says, and we've known and we've seen for more than a decade now, that the real way to be serious about green, the real way to be serious about bike safety, the real way to be serious about encouraging people to take those short trips that are easy is not a couple extra green signs. It's radical changes to the way our streets look and where we prioritize, whether it's street diets, street dieting, or, you know, that eliminates parking, or it's actual purchases of additional property, or whatever it is. It's way more than, you know, just an opportunity for us to feel good about bikes. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm hoping everybody starts to truly process. There are short-term things that are in here, but it's a short list, and they're mostly pedestrian. The bike-related stuff needs some serious, if we're serious, it's going to require action from us that's pretty significant. I think it's good. I think it's action we ought to try and take. I'm not discounting that. I'm an advocate for it. But it's serious. It's not just
Things to strive
cool. Yeah.
And to that end, and to make sure we're fully considering this document, I think what we'll do is we'll put it on for another first reading in a couple of weeks. Give everybody some time to take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it again.
I don't believe that the Ogden Avenue Master Plan was adopted after the first reading, and I don't believe the comprehensive plan was adopted after the first reading, and nor should this one be any less important and be adopted after the first reading either. I think it merits further consideration. But great start. Other questions or comments? We are in workshop mode.
Well, I think Commissioner Barnett said 2 very important words in his last comments there, is prioritization and action. And upcoming here in our long-range planning meetings, we're going to have some opportunity for both of those things. So as we go through this document some more and then plan for the future of this organization, we can start to consider those things in our long-range planning, as well as everything else that we have to provide and do and all the services that we talk about. So there's an opportunity coming up here real quick to implement and or look at possible action items coming out of this report. Thank you.
Other thoughts?
Would it be too-
Contemplations?
Would it be too, since we're talking about a potential ad hoc committee to review this or quarterly, would it be too early to ask people that are watching or read about this, interested to send an interested email to us?
No, I think you just did.
I don't know what the stage is at.
Well, the reason why I asked the question was if it was set up as an ad hoc committee, then we have a process for how people go to apply to boards and commissions.
Okay.
We would identify it as such on our website, and then people could be encouraged to apply for it, and we would put people on it, but
That
it sounds to me like we're not quite there yet.
That reapplication process for boards and commissions in general really gets going over the summer and is implemented in August, and this sets up perfectly for that alignment of timeframe. So yes, we'll get going quickly, and we'll fold it into a process we already use.
Good. Because I'm sure there's a couple people in the audience tonight that would like to be on this. No pressure.
Other comments, questions? All right, terrific, thank you very much. Brings us to item 8B.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit off script here and take advantage of a comment that Commissioner Neustadt just made, and he referenced the long-range planning. Long-range planning has actually already started in some regard in that we've already published a staff report, a preliminary report on long-range planning that's available on our website, on our homepage. So if you want to take a look, you can read that document. It's about 14 pages. It's a nice read, and will really bring you up to speed on the issues that we think are facing our community that we will be discussing over the summer. Long-range planning meetings start in June and are planned to take place in June, July, in August, and they are the many tasks that Commissioner Neustadt just described. These meetings will take place on regularly scheduled council Tuesday evenings, and we will adjourn to the committee room to have those more relaxed and engaged discussions. So long-range planning report is on our website. The meetings start in June and continue through August and align very well with our budgeting process that starts up in September. So thanks for introducing that item, and I just took advantage of that report.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program, which is consideration of first reading item B, which is what we commonly refer to as a parameters ordinance. It sets the parameters for refunding of existing bonds. In here to present information on this item is our Finance Director, Judy Budney.
Good evening, Ms. Butney.
Good evening. Staff is requesting approval of a parameters ordinance which would allow the village to proceed with a bond refunding using a negotiated sale for the 2007 bonds which were issued to finance the construction of Fire Station 2. In the same way that homeowners take advantage of lower interest rates by refinancing their homes to save money, it's the same concept here on these bonds. This refunding is expected to save the village approximately $170,000 or 3% in net present value savings, net of fees. That's consistent with the village's debt policy. Additionally, this parameters ordinance was structured to allow the village to take advantage of other refunding opportunities in addition to the 2007 bonds that could become available before December 31st of this year. Upon approval of this ordinance, staff would work with Northern Trust, who's the village's financial advisor, to receive a bond rating from Standard & Poor's on this issue. Then prepare and distribute the preliminary official statement, which is the document that investors would use to learn about the village and about this particular bond issue. At that point, Northern Trust and the underwriters would price the bond issue and a bond purchase agreement that would be executed that would conform with the parameters in this ordinance. The closing date on the bonds is expected to be July 15th. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'll just add that we've been using parameters ordinances like this for the last couple of years. They've served us very well. They allow us to be operating within policy set by council, but offer the opportunity to be very nimble and take advantage of market conditions when they are favorable. So these are actions that are recommended as part of our long-range financial planning processes, and this would be consistent with past practice.
Thank you. To state it a different way, as Commissioner Durkin would point out, sometimes the opportunities to save significant dollars by refunding or refinancing these bonds occur on timetables that are inconvenient with council meetings. One needs to act quickly in order to take advantage of these sales, and therefore the council is asked to provide parameters, a box within which staff needs to work such that when opportunities arrive they can jump on them, the result being that we save our constituents a considerable amount of dollars by refinancing this debt. And it's worked very well, as Manager Fieldman has mentioned in the past. There's a particular issuance, the 2007 issuance that we're talking about right now, but this parameters ordinance would also apply if there are other opportunities that arose and staff saw them. They would have the authority in advance to jump on them in order to save those dollars without having to wait for the process, which by then it could be too late and we would have missed our opportunity to really save some money. With that, questions or comments from the audience? Questions or comments from the village council? Commissioner Durkin.
I think this is a great move. This was an awesome move that we did. Very proud we did it in the last council. But just a point of clarification for those that remember, we did pass it, and there was a lot of positive discussion, and we saw the end results being positive. The parameter ordinance is only valid for the period of the sitting council, and since there's been the change up here, that's the reason we have to renew or reapprove, vote for this again, because it's all for the sitting of the current council. So I agree with what the mayor said. You know, we have the track record. This is only for the refinancing. This is not for placement of bonds. It's strictly the refinancing. And Northern Trust has done an excellent job in notifying of opportunities, working with our staff. So I am completely behind this. And then just want to point out the other question that was brought up was some of the legal fees. And staff did go out, council did approve a contract with Ice Miller, the law firm, to represent us on the bonding, and there's some discussion in there on how the pricing is set. So we actually have a table of the fees on the legal side of it. So I think overall it's a huge win-win, and I encourage staff to continuously look for these opportunities, because like the mayor said, they can come pretty quick, and with the changing of the market, you know, we want to take advantage of it when it's in our favor.
Thank you. Just to underscore you something you just said, Commissioner, which I think bears repeating, is that this isn't about issuing any new debt. This is about refinancing existing debt so that it costs us less money. There's not a single amount of new debt that's involved in any of these opportunities. It's about taking existing debt and refinancing it like you would your mortgage to save interest in the long run. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Commissioner Olson?
Just a quick question, clarification. The parameters ordinance, what term, how long would it be in effect?
I think
December 31st of this year. of
December
2013.
31st of this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Brings us to item 8C as in cat.
the last two items are both related to our annual sidewalk maintenance program. They are both consideration of award of contracts. And here to present both items is Nan Newman.
A motion is requested to authorize award of 2 contracts for sidewalk maintenance for this year in the village. The first is the replacement sidewalk contract to Schroeder and Schroeder in the amount of $156,075, and the second is the sidewalk rehabilitation project to Safe Step in the amount of $101,050. The replacement program this year includes replacing deteriorated sidewalks as well as curbs and sidewalk ramps to comply with ADA standards. This year's contract also includes work that we included in the Community Investment Program S009 for the removal and replacement of brick sidewalk remnants with concrete sidewalk. At the request of the Park District, staff included an alternate bid in this contract to replace the brick sidewalks along the frontage of the History Museum or Juan Schneider Park on Maple Avenue. This work with the brick sidewalk replacement at the History Museum is included in this contract award amount. The sidewalk rehabilitation project consists of the removal of trip hazards that are less than 1/8 of an inch where there is no other sidewalk deficiencies. By saw cutting the concrete, we've done this will be the 3rd year that we've done this contract. This removes trip hazards, is ADA compliant, cost effective, clean, and removes a lot more trip hazards with less money than replacement where there's significantly more deterioration. Bids were received April 17th for both contracts. The responsive low bidder for the sidewalk removal and replacement contract was Schroeder and Schroeder, who has completed work for communities of Schaumburg, Oak Park, Winnetka, Elk Grove Village, and Northbrook, and we did receive positive references for them. And the responsive low bidder for the sidewalk rehabilitation contract is Safe Step, who performed this work for the village in 2011 and 2012, and we are very pleased with their work, and we would like to recommend approval of these 2 contracts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll take any public comment with respect to either of the sidewalk items 8C and D, or yes, C and D, excuse me, from members of the audience. Any questions or comments on either one of the sidewalk programs? Questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to either one of the sidewalk programs? Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a little update information on the saw cutting, grinding, whatever the right choice of words is. First of all, thanks again to your crew for bringing this idea forward 3 years ago or whatever it was. Obviously it's a money saver, and there's lots of good reasons to do it. I'm just curious, are we finding any places where we're having to go back? Something caused that heave typically. So are we having to, recircle around and do additional grinding on any places yet, or do we anticipate having to do that?
I'm not aware of any, but it's possible there could be a few. I don't think it's a significant number. I mean, if it was tree roots, in those cases we wouldn't just keep going back. We would actually go and do the replacement.
Would we? Okay. That's a great program. Thank you.
Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just 2 comments. And I know this first one, you're going to tell me yes. The sidewalk replacement program, that will be completed prior to the start of school?
That is our plan, yes.
Awesome. And the other, piggybacking on what Commissioner Barnett said about the saw cutting, have we got any response or any communications with the residents who actually have had the experience of having it done in front of their home or in their path of walking? Have we had any feedback on that?
We have. We've gotten both positive, we've gotten very positive comments. It's very clean, easy. They're in there maybe an hour, and it really reduces the trip hazard significantly. We can cover a lot of locations. It's very fast. They We don't have to do the Julie locates, we don't have to bring in heavy equipment, we don't have to excavate the whole sidewalk, it doesn't take 7 days to cure. So it's a very fast process, and a lot of times they don't even know we've been there. There have been a few comments about the appearance, because we're grinding into the concrete and you can see more exposed aggregate. It does look, like you see new white sidewalk the first year and it fades over time. At the first year we do it, it does look kind of white compared to the rest of the color, but that does gradually fade over time. We've received a few comments, but I think overall it's very cost effective, and we've received, I would say, more positive comments than we've received negative.
And the last item I have, and I can't remember if I asked this last time or if it was part of our discussion when we talked about it 2 years ago. Is this actually a job that we could internally do? Our current staff be able to do? I know that, I'm trying to think of the conversation that it was. I thought it was because it was too new and it was a test period, but is this something going forward that you would see us being able to do? I mean, if you're talking 100,000, I don't even know what a piece of equipment costs.
It is a job that I think we could consider doing. Yes,
Okay.
we'd have to weigh it against the other work we do and what our
No, I
priorities are.
understand
But
that.
I think it's something we could consider doing.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Neustadt?
On the same topic of the sawing, District 58, my employer, has partnered or worked with the village to also grind and saw a lot of our trip hazards. So the village starting it, I think the first one was over in front of the Moose Lodge was the example. So we'll check that one to see if it has changed over time. There's a big tree right there by that parking lot, so that's a good one to check out. But District 58 now is grinding and sawing their trip hazards as well. So it's not necessarily a partnership, but it's a connection that the village has made to another municipality, which allows District 58 to save dollars, which allows the constituents of both municipalities to save money. So it's a great setup. I've seen them do it, and it works well. And I think the only complaint I've seen is the dust issue, but even that, they have containment for that, and it's a great project. So thank you very much for, again, as Commissioner Barnett said, for bringing it forward. I'll keep talking so we can finish what's going on over there. Sidewalks are important in Downers Grove, and we all hope
Don't worry,
that,
we're going to Commissioner Olson next, so keep the camera over there.
We have stormwater control over here.
Oh, no, not the gavel. Oh. That's all I have, Mayor. I could keep going if you
Thanks,
want me to.
Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, just a question.
And Commissioner Barnett has some more questions?
Thank God this is a workshop.
Question on the brick sidewalk in front of the Historical Museum. How much of a difference in cost is that for having brick versus if it was just a standard concrete sidewalk?
We can calculate that cost for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Apologies for not asking that earlier, getting that in here.
I wanted to add to that we've enjoyed a great working relationship and partnership with the Park District, and this is a project we talked about doing in the past. I'm proud of us we're able to do it. And there are some other things that the Park District will be doing as well, and putting in some sidewalks in their parks that connect to our system. So we're sort of, each doing what we're good at in our core competencies and partnering in sidewalks. And so look for Park District projects that connect to our system through their parks as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin?
I apologize for not asking this ahead of time. So you were talking about how by doing the saw cutting, it's saving time compared to having to reconstruct. Do you think that we've been able to accomplish more, fixing more trip hazards because of the cost savings in addition to the time savings?
Yes, definitely. We're also doing them when they're smaller, not necessarily waiting till it's an inch or an inch and an eighth. The ADA regulations have become more, the new codes that are coming out are looking at smaller differences of sidewalk. They're defining those as trip hazards and ADA non-compliance. So it's allowing us to catch more of those before they become bigger trip hazards and reduce the village's liability.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. Dave, I asked this privately, and I think it's something that would be good for everyone. Are we, speaking of partnerships that Commissioner Olson brought up and Commissioner Neustadt spoke of, are we working with any other municipalities in the area, any other organizations to try to do projects like this and things like that were approved earlier on the consent agenda to capture economies of scale?
Absolutely. In fact, this is an issue that we brought forth, Downers Grove brought this forth at a DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, Intergovernmental Planning Committee, where we put out the idea of, all of us are doing, all the municipalities in the county are likely doing similar or the same type of contractual work. Shouldn't we get together and identify the characteristics of those contracts that lead to low cost, and then identify partnership opportunities among the member municipalities? So that idea did get some legs. It's taking off, and I think I'm actually having to chair that discussion, so I look forward to doing that.
Thank you.
No good deed goes unpunished.
That's correct.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Commissioner. Well, I also just want to add my accolades for the, in this initiative. I think it's been a great program. It's demonstrably saved us a fair amount of money. It is less disruptive. I think the aesthetic aspect of it is just a matter of getting used to it. When I first saw them running around town, I thought, oh my goodness, what's that? But then you start to realize what it is, and it certainly is far more aesthetically pleasing than having the trip hazard, obviously, or having to rip up sidewalk segments and having them put in at different times and whatnot. It makes for a pretty smooth surface, and I think it's been a great program overall, so congratulations on successfully implementing it. Certainly the bricks in front of the Park District Museum certainly need to be redone, there's no question about that. But I think that's probably one of the most appropriate places to have the old style look in front of the historical museum. So I think that's also worth the investment as well. Any other questions or comments? Sure, Commissioner.
Mayor, you just mentioned that, and my other question on the brick is, obviously there's a lot of issues right now with accessibility. You wouldn't want to push a stroller or wheelchair across it.
I hesitate to run across it.
Yes. Do we anticipate the life of that sidewalk, the brick, to be similar to the life of a concrete sidewalk? Or is there any difference there?
Yes, we are installing it on top of concrete, unlike the existing brick where it's installed on top of either dirt or gravel. We're putting it on concrete, so it will have the same durability of a concrete sidewalk and stay more level over time.
You certainly know that you're in front of the Historical Museum when you walk down that segment of the sidewalk. No question about it.
Very true.
Other questions or comments from the council?
It's original.
Indeed it is.
It's authentic.
Hearing none, that brings us to the end of the first reading workshop agenda. That brings us to item 9, the mayor's report. I have one item on the mayor's report tonight, and that is those who were watching last week will recall that in response to a resident suggestion/request, Commissioner Rankin raised as an item of new business the possibility that with respect to permits that are issued for work that needs to be done exclusively because of flood damage caused by the April 18th, 2013 heavy, unprecedented flooding that we had here in the village and in the region, whether the village and specifically the village manager would have the authority to waive the village's building permit fees for work that has to be done as a direct consequence of that flooding, and not just because it needed to be done anyway, but because of the flooding. There was unanimous support by the rest of the village council for that new business item. So under the mayor's report, I am going to ask for a motion to authorize the village manager to have the discretion to waive building permit fees attributable to flood damage pursuant to the state of emergency on April 18, 2013. I recall that we declared that because of the unprecedented flooding. This would be another example of something that we are doing as a village and as a community to try to recognize and acknowledge the extremity of that event. As was mentioned, we also did a special garbage pickup for flood damaged articles that folks were able to put out on the curb, and this would be another attempt by the village to try to ameliorate the impact of that flooding on April 18th on our community. Is there a motion to that effect?
Mayor Tully, I move that pursuant to a state of emergency declared by the mayor on April 18th, 2013, the village manager shall have the discretion to waive building permit fees attributable to flood damage.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this motion? Any questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to this item? Commissioner Olson?
Just a quick question. I think this is a great plan, and I thank Commissioner Rankin and the residents for bringing this forward. This is, I think, an excellent idea. question, just a quick question to staff is, how is staff going to determine whether a permit was related to this flooding, this state of emergency on April 18th or not?
We'll examine the type of permit activity. It's pretty clear that most of the activity related to flooding has to do with replacement of electrical, repairs to electrical, drywall systems in basements, those types of things. So our staff, when we work with residents, generally strike up a conversation at the front counter as we work with them, and it becomes pretty evident which items are related to the flooding. So we'll continue to do that.
And can residents specifically on an application state that this is in relation to the flooding?
Yes, we'll make sure we make a note of that to make sure that information is also documented and conveyed to other entities, as was requested by Mr. Elgis a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you.
So in short, if a resident comes forward and asks for the building permit fee to be waived with respect to construction of a new backyard deck, that probably would not fit the parameters of this discretion?
That is correct.
Not at the moment.
Commissioner Neustadt?
I'll defer to Commissioner Rankin.
So,
Commissioner Rankin?
so the permit application will have a box to check, or?
Well, we probably won't go and amend our forms or anything like that. We'll
Okay.
probably just make a note on the file.
Okay, so when they're discussing it with the person. So now, let's say someone's already submitted their permit and they've done improvements. If they come back to us, then
Yes.
we're going to honor that.
Yes, there were 5 permits previously identified based on last week's discussion, so we'll go back and retroactively waive those permits,
Great,
those fees.
great, thanks. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Commissioner. Roll call then, please. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I thought Jeff was going to say something. You know, I mean, I just want to point out that, you know, this action is really the council and staff working with our residents. This really is what it is. I mean, we know the pain and the suffering that so many of you have gone through. Some of us have personally gone through. For this to come about, this really is us working together. And I will be supporting this, like I know all of us are, but I really wanted to let everyone know that, because this was an idea that came to us and we were able to act on it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, matter passes unanimously. That ends the mayor's report and brings us to item 10, the village manager's report. Mr. Fieldman?
It's time for our monthly stormwater utility update and report, and here to provide that report is our communications director, Doug Kozlowski.
Good evening, Doug, voice of Downers Grove, Kozlowski.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I am here this evening to provide you with a brief update on the implementation of the stormwater utility. We have completed the 4th month of the utility, which was approved in August of 2012 and implemented in January of this year. And now, as you know, one of the most important benefits of the fee-based system is that all properties now share in the cost of the system, and the monthly fees provide the predictable funding source needed to operate and maintain it. I'm happy to report that the major elements of the stormwater utility program are working. The amount billed, as well as the number and amount of credits issued are consistent with the budget and expectations. So to date, we have 85% of the total amount billed has been paid on time. We actually have now 105 incentives that have been granted in the amount of $7,000. And since our last report, Oak Trace Senior Living has applied for and will be receiving a credit. That brings to a total of 5 credits right now on the stormwater utility that have been issued to District 58, the Downers Grove Park District, the Sanitary District, and St. Mary of Gostin School, and all of those are in line with the budget and expectations. So in summary, the utility was launched on time, and the initial financial numbers are in line with the budget and expectations, and we will continue to provide update reports as the year continues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kozlowski. Any questions from members of the council with respect to the periodic update with respect to the implementation of the stormwater utility? Very good, thank you.
That's our report, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fieldman. That brings us to item 11, Attorney's Report from Village Attorney Enzo Petrarca.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one item to present this evening. That is an ordinance providing for the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds of the Village of Downers Grove. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This brings us to item 12, Councilmember Reports and New Business. We'll begin with a request for any new business. Any new business for any members of the Village Council tonight? Hearing no items of new business, council member reports. Start with Commissioner Jose.
Thank you, Mayor. As many of you know, I live in the Hummer Park area of Downers Grove, and I like to go quite frequently to the Eagle Restaurant. And you may have noticed in the Downers Grove Reporter last week that they were inducted into the Vienna Beef Hall of Fame on May the 7th, and were honored for more than 30 years of serving the residents of Downers Grove here. They've been in business since 1981. And among the criteria, they have to have been in business for at least 20 years in order to be considered for the hall. And once nominated, the folks from Vienna come out and take a look at the establishment and make sure that it's something that's special to the community. And the Eagle Restaurant fit that, and I'd like to congratulate them. I know we have a lot of great eating establishments here in Downers Grove, and now we can say that at least one of them is a Hall of Famer. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe I may have either been in my final years of high school or the early years of college when they first opened, and I gotta believe that I was pretty instrumental in their early success. The 2 hot dogs and fries special was a staple of my diet back then. Thank you. Commissioner Rankin?
No report.
Thank you. Commissioner Durkin? I have no report. Commissioner Newstead?
Thank you, Mayor. The Village of Downers Grove will be using propertyroom.com to sell 27 bicycles and other miscellaneous items that have been collected for various reasons throughout the village. They are listed on our front page, or there's a link, I should say, to the list of the bicycles. And if you believe one of these bikes may be your property, you can contact the police department to check out the serial numbers and such. But otherwise, we've got a lot of great bikes on, talking about bikes tonight all over the place. A lot of great bicycles and some other property that will be made available for sale. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, just wanted to congratulate the Noah's Hope Foundation for a great 5K and Family Fun Day on Sunday. It was a great event. I know the mayor and I were both running in that 5K.
Well, you were running. I don't know if what I was doing was called running, but you were.
Well, and our former mayor as well. So it was good to see a lot of support from the community. In the spirit of 5Ks and getting out and exercising, the YMCA is having their 5K and 10K Commit to Be Fit run on Sunday, June 2nd at 8 a.m. So if you're interested in getting out and jogging, I'll be participating in the 10K. So if you're interested in coming out and beating your council member in a race, come out and do it.
I saw your time. I don't think many people are beating you.
Hey, I'm running the 10K. It's a lot longer.
I'll be watching.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, it's a great race. I'm gonna actually could be doing the 10K for the 3rd time this year, but much slower than you. Commissioner Barnett?
I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you. Couple things. First of all, want to, since we don't have the meeting until after Memorial Day, want to wish all our residents and staff and my fellow colleagues a safe and restful and enjoyable Memorial Day. On Memorial Day itself, there will, of course, once again be a wonderful remembrance ceremony in Official Park. American Legion and our veterans put on a terrific remembrance ceremony there. I believe, again, once again, it will be preceded by a short parade, and the ceremony itself will begin at 1 o'clock in Official Park. We're hoping, once again, for terrific weather. It's a terrific remembrance ceremony, always deeply moving, usually well attended, so I will look forward to seeing many of my colleagues and friends and neighbors there. And then last but not least, there are exactly 30 days left until the Downers Grove Rotary Grove Fest. June 20th, 2013 is when the streets close and the fun begins, so we'll look forward to that as well. I have nothing further, but we cannot adjourn just yet. We need to go into executive session tonight, so may I have a motion to adjourn into executive session, please?
Mayor Tully, I move to convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the village or whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
Second.
Any questions or comments from members of the village council? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. We are adjourned into closed session. Thank you and good night, and happy Memorial Day to all of you, and thanks to all our veterans who have served our community and our nation. Good night.